Moments in life where a single word can shatter everything you thought you knew about yourself. For Diego Denver, that word was Dad, uttered from the innocent lips of a child he'd never seen before. Imagine owning a tequila empire, living in a mansion straight out of a magazine, having all the money in the world, and suddenly discovering your perfect life is a lie built on buried secrets. Imagine that 5-year-old boy looking at you with eyes identical to your own is the key that unlocks a Pandora's box filled with betrayals, revenge, and a love you thought was long gone. This is the story of a man who had everything and had nothing, of a woman who guarded the most painful secret for years, of an innocent child who became the center of an all-out war, and of a wife capable of anything to protect her world of luxury and appearances. Because when the past comes back to collect outstanding debts, you discover the price of truth can be higher than you ever imagined. And sometimes losing everything is the only way to find what truly matters. But be warned, because this story has secrets within secrets, and just when you think you know the whole truth, a revelation will change everything once more. Diego Denver stepped out of his Mercedes, his jacket rumpled, his tie loosened. The meeting at the tequila distillery had ended sooner than expected, and for the first time in months he was returning to his mansion in the hills of Denver without telling anyone. The electric gate opened slowly, revealing the perfectly manicured gardens surrounding the colonial-style house. Purple bougainvilleas climbed the white walls, and the scent of orange blossoms filled the warm Denver afternoon air. He walked down the pink flagstone path, phone pressed to his ear, arguing export numbers when he heard a small voice from the courtyard. "Are you done with your little cars, son?" Diego frowned. Isabella wasn't home, and the cleaning staff should have already left. He headed towards the Talavera fountain, where they usually relaxed in the afternoons. Rounding the corner, he stopped dead in his tracks. A boy of about 5 was sitting on the mosaic floor, playing with plastic cars next to the fountain. He had dark, curly hair, light brown skin, and was wearing an America jersey and worn-out sneakers that clearly didn't come from any store in the apartments. The little boy looked up at his presence, his large, dark eyes fixed on Diego with a familiarity that unsettled him. "Dad, why did you take so long?" the boy asked, with the naturalness of someone expecting an answer. Diego felt the air escape his lungs. The phone slipped from his hand and fell onto the mosaics with a dull thud. What did you say?" The boy smiled, that smile Diego had seen 1,000 times in the mirror when he was little. The same smile that appeared in the family photos from the ranch in Austin. "I was waiting for you, Dad. Mom said you were coming." Before Diego could process what was happening, he heard hurried footsteps from the kitchen. A woman appeared running, her hair pulled back in a ponytail, a flower-covered apron. "Charlie!" Carmen yelled, arriving breathlessly. Her cheeks were flushed and her eyes reflected pure panic. "What did you tell the sir?" Carmen took Charlie's hand with a force that made the boy look at her confusedly. Her eyes avoided Diego's as she mumbled nervous apologies. "Sorry, Mr. Denver. I didn't know you had arrived." "Charlie, let's go to the kitchen." "No." Diego's voice came out louder than he intended. "Carmen, we need to talk." The boy looked at both adults, sensing the tension that had taken over the atmosphere. Carmen clenched her jaw. "There's nothing to talk about, sir. Charlie is imaginative. He watches TV and confuses older men." "Imaginative?" Diego took a step closer. "Carmen, look me in the eyes and repeat that." She finally looked up. In her pupils there was fear, guilt, and something that looked like supplication. "Charlie, go watch cartoons in the utility room," she told the boy in a trembling voice. "But, Mom, I want to stay with Dad." "Now, Charlie!" The little boy walked away, head down, his sneakers squeaking against the tiles. When he disappeared down the hall, Diego stood before Carmen. "You lie, Carmen. That boy has my eyes, my scar." Diego touched the small mark above his left eyebrow. "Even my way of smiling." Tears welled up in Carmen's eyes. She brought her trembling hands to her apron. "Don't say that, please. How old is he?" 5. 5 years old? Diego did some quick mental calculations. "Carmen, 5.5 years ago, you and I—" "It was one night, Diego. Just one night at the State Fair in Indianapolis." The words came out between sobs. "You had fought with Isabella. You arrived home drunk. I'd also been drinking punch with the girls from the St. John market." Diego remembered that night as if it were yesterday. The argument with Isabella about having children, his escape to the bar, the stumbling return home where Carmen had waited for him with coffee and aspirin. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" Carmen wiped her tears with her sleeve. "Because I knew this would happen, that everything would get complicated, that Isabella—" Her voice broke. "But there's something else you don't know, Diego, something that terrifies me to tell you." During the following days, Diego couldn't get the image of Charlie out of his head. Those eyes, that smile, even the way he furrowed his brow when concentrating on playing. Everything reminded him of himself as a child in the photos from the family ranch. Discreetly, he contacted Dr. Ramirez, an old friend from the university who now ran the most prestigious genetic laboratory in Austin. "I need a paternity test, Ramirez. Confidential and urgent." "Family problems, my friend?" Something like that. That afternoon, while Carmen was cleaning the pantry, Diego managed to take a glass that Charlie had used for his hibiscus water. With trembling hands, he put the glass in a sealed bag. Isabella had noticed his strange behavior. She saw him distracted during dinners, absent in conversations about the new export contracts to the United States. "What's wrong with you lately, Diego? You seem like a zombie." "Work, my love. The numbers from the tequila company don't add up." But Isabella had a sixth sense for lies. That night, while Diego slept, she checked his cell phone. She found repeated calls to the laboratory and strange messages with his accountant. The next day, from her office overlooking the Cathedral of Learning, Isabella called a private number. "I want you to investigate everything about that woman and her son," she told the detective she had used before to investigate disloyal partners. "Her name is Carmen. She works in my house. She has a boy about 5 years old." "What specifically do you need to know, Mrs. Denver?" "Her past, her relationships, everything, and I want you to do it without my husband finding out." Meanwhile, Carmen lived in a state of constant anxiety. She knew Diego wouldn't rest easy. That afternoon, when he arrived home early from work, he found her in the garden hanging laundry. "Carmen, who else was with you around that time?" She dropped a shirt to the ground. "Why are you asking that?" "Because I need to know the whole truth." Carmen's eyes filled with panic. At that moment, Diego's phone rang. "Mr. Denver, you need to come urgently. There's something strange in the results." Diego arrived at the laboratory with his heart beating like a mariachi drum. "Dr." Ramirez greeted Diego with an expression he couldn't decipher, a mix of surprise and concern. "Have a seat, Diego. This is going to sound very strange. Just tell me if it's my son." Ramirez opened the file on his glass desk. "Technically, yes. 99.999% biological father according to standard genetic markers. But there are also coincidences with another genetic profile." Diego frowned. "What does that mean?" "That this child shares genetic material with you, but also shows patterns suggesting another man was involved in the conception, or that you have close relatives who could also be candidates." "That's impossible." "Diego, was the child's mother with someone else during those dates? Someone who could be a relative of yours?" Diego's world spun. He left the lab driving on autopilot down Peachtree Street until he reached home. He found Carmen preparing squash blossom quesadillas in the kitchen. "Carmen, we need to talk. Now." She turned, saw his face, and knew it was over. "The results came back, right?" "Yes, but something doesn't add up." "Who else were you with during those months?" Carmen leaned against the stove, her legs weakening. "Diego, Tell me the truth." "With Roger, my ex-boyfriend, Roger Herrera." Who's Roger? A mariachi musician from the Plaza de los Mariachis. We broke up right before us. Diego felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. So you don't know who the real father is? Carmen started to cry. I thought it was you. Charlie looks so much like you. But Roger, her voice broke. Roger also has dark eyes and that scar on his eyebrow. At that moment, Charlie appeared in the kitchen doorway, wearing his America jersey, his eyes full of confusion. Mom, so who's my real dad? Isabella had been listening from the hallway. Each word of the conversation between Diego and Carmen stabbed her heart like poisoned daggers. Her perfectly constructed world crumbled before her eyes. She crept back to her room and locked the door. Her hands trembled as she dialed a number on her private cell phone. Roger Herrera, this is Isabella Denver. Ma'am, I don't understand. How did you get my number? I have my resources. Listen carefully, Roger. Do you want to make $200,000? I have a proposition that will interest you. The mariachi's voice immediately changed. I'm all ears, ma'am. That child, Charlie, how much does he matter to you? Well, he's my son, or so I believe. Carmen left me without explanations years ago. Isabella smiled coldly. Her plan began to form with surgical precision. I'm going to help you get your son back. But you need to do exactly what I tell you. 2 days later, Isabella met Roger at the bar of the Hotel Villa Gans in Central Park. He was dressed in his best white guayabera and black charro pants, clearly nervous in that luxurious setting. What do you need me to do, ma'am? Isabella slid a thick envelope across the glass table. First, you're going to legally claim paternity of the child. I have lawyers who will take care of the paperwork. And then we're going to make Diego look like an obsessed liar, make Carmen look like a gold digger, and make you look like the responsible father who returns to claim his son. Roger counted the bills in the envelope. And why are you helping me? Isabella's eyes hardened like obsidian. Because Diego thinks he can trade his perfect life for a romantic fantasy, because he thinks he can publicly humiliate me. But he's wrong. She leaned forward, her voice becoming a venomous whisper. The child will be mine. If I can't have children, I'll take Diego's. When everything's over, you disappear with your money. Carmen is devastated, and Diego learns that you don't mess with me. Roger swallowed hard, beginning to understand the scope of the plan. What if Diego discovers we're working together? Isabella raised her glass of tequila and offered a chilling smile. He won't until it's too late. The media storm broke on a Tuesday morning. Diego woke to his phone vibrating incessantly. Messages, missed calls, social media notifications, a cacophony of sound. He opened Twitter and felt the world crumble around him. The #1 trending topic in the United States was Thatcher's secret son. His photo was everywhere alongside Charlie's and Carmen's. Millionaire tequila mogul has secret son with housekeeper. Scandal in Denver. Diego Denver abandons family. Isabella came down for breakfast, perfectly composed, as if it were a normal day. I see you've become famous, darling. You leaked this. I didn't leak anything. I only told my journalist friend I was worried about you, that you've been acting very strangely lately. At that moment, the kitchen TV showed Roger before the Telemundo Denver cameras. He wore his full charro suit and held documents in his hands. That child is legally mine. I have documents to prove it, Roger declared firmly. Carmen Herrera and I had a formal relationship. I am the father listed on the birth certificate. Diego jumped up, spilling his coffee onto the onyx table. That's a lie. Oh, yeah? Isabella showed her phone. Look at the photos that just came out in the New York Times. The screen showed photos of Roger with Carmen at the State Fair in Indianapolis, clearly pregnant, holding hands. Photos that seemed authentic, but that Diego knew had been manipulated. His phone rang. It was his lawyer. Diego, you need to get representation immediately. Roger Herrera has just filed a custody and defamation lawsuit. Defamation? He says you've been harassing his family and claiming paternity of a child that isn't yours. Diego hung up and ran to his car. He had to get to Carmen before it was too late. But when he arrived at the modest apartments in the hills where Carmen lived, the door was open. Neighbors whispered outside. His phone vibrated. Carmen. "Diego! I can't find Charlie." Roger took him. Diego arrived at Carmen's apartment to find the doors open and signs of a struggle. Chairs overturned, Charlie's toys scattered across the tile floor. Carmen sat on the floor, clutching a small America jersey. "He took him 2 hours ago," she sobbed. "He arrived with other men. They said they had a court order." Diego helped her up, his hands trembling with rage. "Did he leave any clues? Did he say anything?" "Only that they were going somewhere safe. Far from here." Diego's phone rang. Unknown number. "Dad!" Charlie's little voice sounded terrified. "Dad, help me! I'm in a house with volcanoes." "Charlie, where are you, son?" The call cut off abruptly. Diego immediately called his contact in the state police. "Commander Morales, I need your help. They kidnapped my son." For the next 6 hours, Diego mobilized all his contacts. From businessmen to politicians, he cashed in all the favors he'd accumulated over the years that night. The search extended throughout Texas and neighboring states. Carmen stayed by his side, clinging to the hope that they would find Charlie safe and sound. At 2 in the morning, they received the first real lead. A gas station attendant in Nashville had seen a man in a charro hat accompanied by a small child buying Coca-Cola and cookies. The child was crying softly, the witness reported. The man said he was his dad, but the boy kept asking for his mom. Diego and Carmen immediately drove towards Nashville. Along the way, they stopped in each town asking about Roger and Charlie. In Nashville, an elderly artisan directed them towards the cabins on the slopes of the hills overlooking the city. "I saw a man with a boy heading towards the old cabins. But I also saw a stylish woman arrive later in a big car." Diego's heart stopped. "A stylish woman?" "Yes, sir. Very well dressed. Blonde hair, dark glasses, like rich." When they finally found the cabin hidden among the pines, Diego saw Isabella's Mercedes parked outside. Everything was starting to make sense. His phone vibrated. A text message. "If you want to see your son alive, Diego, come alone." No police, no Carmen. Diego walked slowly towards the wooden cabin, while Carmen waited hidden among the trees. The door opened before he could knock. Isabella appeared perfectly made up, but with a gun in her hand. Behind her, Roger held Charlie, whose eyes were red from crying. "Dad!" the boy yelled when he saw him. "Silence," Isabella ordered in an icy voice. "Diego, it's so nice you came to the family reunion." "Isabella, let the boy go. The problem is between us." She smiled cruelly. The problem is that you destroyed my perfect life for this fantasy, my reputation, my social standing, everything for a bastard. He's my son. He was your son. Now he's mine." Diego noticed that Roger seemed uncomfortable, sweating despite the mountain chill. "Roger, you don't have to do this. She's using you." "Shut up," Isabella muttered. "Roger knows what's good for him." But Diego saw something in the mariachi's eyes. A doubt, regret. "How much did she pay you, Roger? Is it worth hurting an innocent child?" Isabella raised the gun towards Diego. "Choose, Diego, her or the boy. Only one can leave alive." At that moment, Roger suddenly let go of Charlie. "No, this is out of control, Isabella. The boy is innocent." "Traitor!" Isabella turned the gun towards Roger. Charlie ran to Diego, who hugged him, shielding him with his body. Roger took advantage of the distraction to jump on Isabella. The gun fired into the air. Isabella fell to the ground, screaming like a caged beast. "You ruined everything, everything!" At that moment, police sirens began to wail in the distance. Carmen had called for backup when she heard the gunshot. Officers burst in, wearing bulletproof vests and drawing their weapons. "Hands up!" Isabella, with disheveled hair and smeared makeup, was handcuffed as she screamed incoherently about her destroyed life. "Ms. Isabella Denver," the commander declared, "you are under arrest for kidnapping and extortion." Diego hugged Charlie tightly as Carmen ran up. For the first time in days, the boy smiled. "Dad, Are we going home now? Yes, son, we're going home now. 2 months later, life had taken a completely different turn. Diego sold the distilleries, the mansion, and all the luxuries he once believed were important. With the money, he bought a small cafe in Little Italy, with worn wooden tables and brightly painted walls. Café Don Diego had become the meeting point for mariachis, University of Michigan students, and families from the neighborhood. Carmen made café de olla in clay pots and quesadillas with cotija cheese that became famous throughout the area. Diego no longer wore Italian suits. Now he wore comfortable cotton shirts, denim pants, and huaraches. His hair had grown a little, and a light beard gave him a more relaxed look. Charlie went to the neighborhood public school, where he quickly made friends. His teachers always commented that he was a bright and affectionate child, though sometimes he had nightmares about the bad man who wanted to take him away. One afternoon, while Diego was cleaning the tables after lunch, Charlie approached with a worried look. "Dad, why is Mom sad when she thinks we don't see her?" Diego turned towards the kitchen, where Carmen was preparing horchata. It was true. Since the kidnapping, she smiled during the day, but Diego had seen her crying silently at night. "Sometimes adults need time to heal, son. Like when I hurt my knee and it took a while to close." "Exactly, but the heart sometimes takes longer." Carmen had developed silent panic attacks. She didn't want to go out alone, obsessively checked the door locks, and jumped at any unexpected noise. Diego had taken her to a psychologist, but she insisted she was fine. That afternoon, as they were about to close, an elegant woman in her 60s entered the cafe. She wore a shawl and carried an old leather bag. "Excuse me, does Carmen Herrera work here?" Diego frowned. "Yes. Who's looking for her?" The woman looked at him intently, as if studying his features. "I'm Hope Morales. I come from Denver. I'm looking for Carmen. I bring news of her other son." Carmen dropped the pitcher of hibiscus tea she was washing. The glass shattered against the polished cement floor, but she didn't move. Diego felt the air thicken around them. Charlie looked confused at the adults. "What other son?" Diego asked in a hoarse voice. Hope slowly sat down in one of the wooden chairs. "The son Carmen gave up for adoption 19 years ago. My son." "Well, my adoptive son." Carmen leaned against the wall, her legs trembling. "No, it can't be. I signed papers. They said I could never—" "The papers said you couldn't look for him, but he can look for you." Hope pulled an iPad from her bag and showed them a YouTube channel with over 2 million subscribers. Lost Stories of America, it was called, and the host was a 19-year-old with Diego's dark eyes and Carmen's smile. His name is Alex Morales. For the past 6 months, he's been researching his origins. When the scandal broke in the news, he realized you could be his biological parents. Diego approached the screen. The resemblance was undeniable. Alex had his square jaw and Carmen's hand shape. "He's famous," Carmen murmured, her eyes filled with tears. "My son is famous, and I didn't even know it." "More than famous," Hope explained. "He's an influencer, studies history at the University of Denver, and has helped reunite more than 50 separated families." "Why didn't he come himself?" Diego asked. "Because he was afraid of being rejected. He wanted to be sure you wanted to meet him." At that moment, Diego's phone started to ring. Unknown number. Diego answered with trembling hands. "Diego, Denver?" "Yes." "Dad, it's Alex, your lost son. Can we meet?" Carmen fainted into Diego's arms, who could barely speak with emotion. "Yes, son. We have been waiting for you our whole lives."